What's good?
Hi.
What's going on, man?
Yo, yo, yo. Alrighty. Let's see. I'm seeing some familiar faces. Good to see people who are back in the mix for day 2. Dude, here, let me switch views real quick. Oh, bro,
yeah.
Jackie, is that you?
Hell yeah.
What's good, dude?
What up? What up?
Unreal. Yo, just give me some thumbs up if you did the challenge yesterday. Hey, yo, keep those thumbs up if you had some fun doing it. Nice. Let's go. So, yo, just yeah, drop me some comments. Like, how was that shit if you did the challenge yesterday? Did you have fun? Was it hard? Drop them in the comments. Yeah, let's go. 99 bucks. Amazing, so fun, very eye-opening and creative. Still working on it, lol. Keep it going. Fuck, made me miss the boot camp so much, Justin. I love you, dude. Fun, keep it simple. Yes, super refreshing. Love it. Distortion on the master. Yes. Insane. Hard, sticking with just the 909, but fun. Super hard. Super hard to make a song with just the 909. If you used other sounds, that's cool. If you just use the 909, respect. It's feel like any opportunity to just mix up the process, shake yourself up is a good experience. So it doesn't really matter if you were super strict with it or not. Open doors in my production. Let's go. Yeah, I'm loving all of this. This is really dope. I'm sure people are still filing in, but let's also, I'm just going to start playing a couple examples of what people made yesterday. Here I have, pull up some things. Yeah, dude, I got so many crazy tracks and just want to say, I'm going to try and keep on listening to more. I apologize in advance if some songs fall through the cracks, but I'll do my very best to try and hear everybody's. But yeah, I was just blown away by what I got back and really appreciate people giving this a chance. I know it can be pretty tricky to, do music in this way, like being challenged. And yeah, just huge respect. So here, let's listen to a couple tracks. Let's see.
Notified when I'm with the swing. I can hear the rim ring. I'm singing out the ride. I'm double kicking out the floor.
Yeah, awesome. I was very impressed by how many people like really kept it strict to the 909, which once again, huge respect, just crazy. I know there's probably also some people who weren't here yesterday. Can you comment in the chat if Sunday, if this is your day one? Yeah, let me know. Day one gang, let's go. Dope, awesome. Day one, Sunday, lots yes. Fuck yeah, that's awesome. I'm hyped that you guys are here, and yeah, hopefully you won't feel too lost. We'll catch you up to speed and hopefully do it in a way where everyone who was here yesterday will still be dialed in. All right, so let me open Ableton. I guess a couple of quick things also real quick. Can you blow up the chat if you live in LA? Like, does anyone here live in Los Angeles? give me some thumbs up if you do as well. LA, tight. Tough Ghost. Oh, sick. What's up? Dude, Tash. Yo, what's up? Awesome. Yes, let's go. Just a quick shout out. Next week on Saturday, me and my homies were throwing a big party. And so if you're in town, roll through. Megan, maybe if you have a link, you can drop it, but it's gonna be really fun. And if you come and you see me, come say hi, be like, yo, I did the 909 challenge or was there, and I'll be really stoked to see you and I'll give you mad respect. That's yeah. And if I don't see you in LA, but I see you in some other city, let me know. It's always awesome to meet people across the world who make music and are into it. So yeah. Let me open this up. Okay, cool. So real quick, for those who are here for the first time, let me open Ableton. Perfect. So the challenge yesterday was to make music with the 909 drum machine. And for those that don't know, the 909, it's one of the most classic drum machines. I played some videos of Jeff Mills just rocking the 909 at festivals, and he's just using this one drum machine and nothing else to make music. And so it's a really interesting idea because I feel like one of the biggest problems when you open your computer to make music is you can feel so overwhelmed by like everything that your computer can do. And Jeff Mills shows us that, yo, if you load up this one drum machine, which comes as a free stock sound on Ableton, you can make a total banger. You can make people dance, and hopefully you can have a lot of fun using it. It's one of my favorite go-to drum sounds, even if I'm, making other types of tracks where, whether I have vocals or synths and whatnot, it's still like just one of the core sounds of house and techno. And I, used the metaphor yesterday of relating it to like the electric guitar, how like if you were making a rock song, using the electric guitar would be a great thing to choose. If you're making house or techno, the 909, it's a great thing to choose. So yeah, really powerful. And the reason why this is such a good exercise, one, it takes out all of the potential problems when you are looking through sample packs, because sometimes if you accidentally are trying to make a house song but you take a dubstep snare, it might like not be what you actually want for your song, and you might not even realize it, because if you're listening through snares, if you're listening through 100 snares, they all kind of sound the same after a while, right? Like, give me a thumbs up if you feel me. Totally. And yet at the same time, they can be different. And I feel like, you just use the 909, it's the funniest thing because your drums sound very cohesive. And they you can sound like you had, a $3,000 piece of equipment by just using these sounds. And it becomes more about what you don't do than what you actually do. So it's just really funny. And there were so many tracks that I heard where I was like, yeah, this just has that old school classic sound. And give me a thumbs up if you felt that energy. You were like, wow, I feel like I'm making some old school classic shit. And I feel like that's awesome. And just, I don't know, it's timeless. It's timeless for me, at least. All right, so I'll show people. I ended up working on this for a little bit longer after we ended yesterday and tried to kind of take it across the finish line as quickly as possible. And so, crash course for anyone who's new to Ableton, anyone who's new today, what we did is we opened a project, and all I did was went to drums and opened the Kit Core 909, loaded this puppy in. And if you're brand new to Ableton, this is the most fun this is like just such a fun thing you can do. If you right click on this grid, select 1/16, you can press B to open the pencil or just double click, and you can literally just do random ass shit, and just press play, and fuck around just making all these random beats using these drum sounds. And, you put 4 to the floor here. You put an open hi-hat here. Let me move zoom, it's in the way. Nice. You put a clap here, and you immediately have like every house music beat ever. and it's just like you can't beat it. It's just so good. And with these toms, you can use these toms, especially the low ones, almost as a baseline, and you can make a whole beat. This is kind of what Jeff Mills does by using these toms to like create a funky pattern. That's it. That's the no time spent digging through sample packs. These drum kits, through Ableton are like already mixed decently well. So we're not even worrying about the mix too much. We're just like immediately playing with rhythms, and I feel like that's so much, that's such a big part of making music. It's what you do with the sounds, the rhythms you choose, and how you build the energy through the structure. And I feel like the structure and the writing is like the real challenge here. It's almost kind of like, maybe it's like, I'm not that big of like a gym person, but you could do, I think it's like a thing where you can do like exercises where you like really isolate a muscle, like you do a curl and your like elbow is on your leg or something like that. The worst person to use like gym analogies, but I feel like what we're doing is we're really isolating, we're removing a couple variables from the equation, the sound selection and the sound design component, and just focusing on the writing, the creative aspects of the production and the structure, which I feel like, yeah, it's just a really good challenge. And I feel like one last thing that's so cool about this, everyone who did this, I'm sure you felt this, where when you are so restricted, you start to become more creative about how you can make the song not boring. You get more creative about like how to stretch this loop into a full track. And just one last question, like, did anyone feel that way where you were able to push through and make this loop into a minute, even just with the bare tools that you had in front of you, right? Which is crazy because you're so restricted. And I'm sure hopefully that helps just kind of get the juices flowing in your brain when you have all the tools that you normally use to be like, oh wow, now I can use synths or vocals or this or that. And hopefully this helps just reframe our thinking when it comes to turning a loop into a track. So just to recap, a big part of the process yesterday for starting the beat that I ended up making, need to move Zoom again, was there were like some loops that I literally just did random ass shit like this. Let's play. Yeah, like super random shit, like this pattern I chose, and pretty much taking these loops, click, and then shift tab to get it into this view. I tried to turn this into, let's see, a 4-minute track that I think I could DJ, and I feel like I could drop this in a set, even though all I used was the 909. Yeah, it's like, it could be even better if I used vocals and other things potentially, but I wanted to do this just for like the challenge of it and try to keep the song from being boring. And then, so I'll talk a little bit about, structure and kind of the things that I was thinking about to really make this track feel good. Because there's, a lot of people ask about getting a song, 100% done or finished. And we can talk about mixing and mastering quite a bit, but I think often there can be certain details within the production that can really help us get things across the finish line. So I'll play like maybe a good chunk of it and then talk about how I got there and the details that I thought were important to tweak. So here's from the intro. Okay, sweet. So appreciate all the head nodding. Let's go. Yeah, it's it's always a little vulnerable playing your tracks, but yeah, dude, definitely had fun with this. And I'll kind of walk people through how I got this far. So I knew that the core idea of the track was going to be this where is it? Here. The kick and the tom. So I feel like this right here is, it's the toms are kind of like my bass line, and I knew this is going to be like, this is the first drop of the song, really. Drop one. And I wanted to set it up, but I felt like I also needed some sort of element in my mid-range to be kind of like almost like the lead sound of the song, which is funny because we're just dealing with these drum things, but I feel like um, there's like a funny analogy that I have where it's like your low end is almost like if you were like driving, your low end, your kick and your bass is almost like the wheels and your engine. It's the thing that keeps you going, and you want it to have this momentum that can just like keep you chugging. The mid range, I feel like, is if you're on a road trip and it's like your food. If you are on a road trip and you don't have any food, you have no mid range, you're gonna be upset. You're gonna like stop to get a bite at a gas station. You're gonna pull over. And on the flip side, if you have too much food, if you're just getting blasted with mid range, you're probably gonna like feel car sick, and you're gonna need to pull over and take a break. So I feel like the mid-range can be a really big part of what latches our ears in a very different way from the low end, where the low end might keep us dancing. The mid-range, I feel like, might pull us in other ways. And if you think about it, I feel like our ears are very tuned to things that are in this mid-range element. And I feel like our voices are example of something that fits in this mid-range. And I feel like our ears perk up when we hear another person's voice or something in that area, just because I don't know, it's probably some like primal shit that I don't know much about. So anyways, long story short, I wanted a little idea that was kind of repetitive that could be the focus of the mid-range. And so I made this little rim shot idea. Super simple, but I thought it worked well with the toms. And that one little idea helped kind of round out the intro of my song, which was I muted everything except the kick and the rim shot. And it was just like a nice way to start the track without giving away my bass line. Threw in a little fill. And then here is kind of the other big component of what really helped me arrange the whole song. And I did my intro, like I didn't start with the intro. If you were here yesterday, you saw that I did this kind of like while we were jamming around, but I took this ride cymbal on a separate track and automated the decay time so that it goes from being really short to really long. So this automation, when it's down here, it's short. When it's up here, it's long. And I think this was one of the first shapes that I did. And so it's awesome because that sits in the high range, and it's like, it's acting as like a hi-hat thing. But when the ride cymbal goes from being short to long, it also builds up the energy. So it's an awesome tool that I use throughout the entire track to, just have moments where I'm building up the energy. And it's like, it's awesome because, for those build-up moments, I could just like copy it over. If I want to tweak it, I can, but just, as you're structuring, I feel like recycling bits that are working for you, I think, is a really awesome way to speed up the process. One other thing that I did was I wanted a little bit of stuff to happen to just kind of keep the interest for this track. There's times where I'll do very little like fancy shit. Just as an example of that, let me open Spotify. DJ Dion is someone who like just like crushes the simplicity. Here's like a DJ Dion track where there's like no automation, Nothing fancy. 1909, and it's just such a banger. I'll just play it real quick.
Who you with? 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 Where you from? 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 Who you with?
It's like the simplest 909 pattern ever, but he has that amazing bass line and that amazing vocal. So I feel like it kind of works how simple it is. For this track that I was working on, I felt like I would love to keep my tracks that simple if I can, but because I didn't have a vocal, I feel like I needed to compensate with the hi-hats and with the 909 shit to just keep it interesting. So one little thing that I did was I had this one little ride thing that like automates over here. I think it works kind of nicely because it plays almost like call and response to this rim shot. You guys hear that? It's not something I thought about, but I feel like it might be one of the reasons why it worked. And I think this view, it's kind of easy to see that how the rim shot's there, it stops here, and then something else happens so that we have a little bit of like call and response. It's just an idea that like, instead of having everything interesting happening at the same time, if you have interesting things happen at different times, your ear can pay attention to each of them. It's like having a conversation. Much better than everyone yelling all at once. I then copied that over and then added this tiny little change right here where this symbol gets open or gets a little bit longer. And then I added an extra fill over here. So like a little variation where there's an extra hi-hat or extra ride cymbal. And this is cool because it's kind of like, it's like, you know, it's a repetitive idea that I use throughout the track. You can see that it's like copied over quite a few times. And it's just something that I think, you know, when the track is pretty stripped down, it just adds a little bit of something that's kind of interesting. Then I feel like the last thing that got me through the intro was I dragged that random buildup pattern that I made in the kind of like initial stages of the track and just copied it over. Okay, so let me show you. This is one of those detail moments that I needed to tweak for a bit longer. I feel like everything I've shown you up to now, I just tried to do it as quickly as possible. But these types of moments, I feel like, are the ones that are worth kind of massaging until they feel good. So when I initially, you know, did this was probably what the track looked and sounded like, where this automation went all the way here. This was just like, this just looped for 4 bars, and here's what it sounded like. Now that totally works, but I feel like I just felt like there was room for some improvement, and I knew that, I feel like one of the biggest things was because it was so busy, I knew that I wanted a little bit of a pause before the drop. And so one of the first things that I probably did was decided to like cut the ride cymbal, even just 1/8 note early. I went from this to this. And that was something that I was like, yo, that I think will help. Just that tiny pause, I think it can, doing things like that, you don't always want to do it. It's like just something that's worth thinking about, because sometimes even just giving one beat of space can really help a drop feel that much more impactful. Yeah, it's like when your drop happens after a tiny bit of silence or a ton of silence, nothing is more, if you think about it, there's nothing that's more contrasting than like going from absolute silence to like your big kick drum and bass line coming in there out of nowhere. So it's something that you can definitely play with. I did the same sort of silence idea over here with maybe a tiny bit more silence. And I've definitely had tracks where it's like, you know, tracks where I have like a full bar of silence. Like you can really play with those types of things, and you can imagine like what it would feel like to be on the dance floor yourself listening to that. And you know, if there's like a really hectic buildup where you're just going fucking crazy, sometimes you might want like a full measure of silence to like allow people to chill out for a sec and to be like, whoa, where did the drop come? Like, where is it? And then it happens, and then everyone's stoked. So silence, one of the most powerful tools in our toolbox. The other thing that I messed with was I wanted to have something kind of like in our face to like let people know that the drop is coming. And so I decided to do this like thing where I had the kick. I used, instead of using the main kick, which is like a little bit bigger, I used this like kick beat, which is a little shorter, and I put a crash, and I just highlighted 3 16th notes like this, highlight, and then move it till this blue bar is 3, and then just did Command D a bunch of times. And that gives this like really cool sort of, you know, it's like almost like a triplet-y kind of feel. And I loved that the kick crash ends on beat 4, and I cut everything after beat 4, which in the loop, you can see that this is a copy of the same pattern over here, pretty much. And while this one carries over, this one discontinues after beat 4. That pattern might be a little bit different. One other thing that I did though, just to feel like a little bit more build up going into this, was I automated, where's the crash? Maybe it's this one. Yeah, I automated the crash decay, and I just thought it like helped. I don't know, just felt like doing it. Yep. Those are the types of details that I was like, I really want this moment to feel good, especially because if I were DJing, this would be kind of like the moment right before the bass line is going to come in, and I definitely want people to dance. So I feel like, yeah, making sure the automation and the ideas just like feel as good as they can was important to me. I feel like I could have done something more simple here, but I went with something more complicated. So it doesn't matter about like whether it's simple or complicated, because this one I feel like is amazing. I feel like this is actually a cooler moment and there's less stuff happening. The fact that the toms and all the drums stop for a full measure, except for this ride and the rim shot, I feel like this is totally like up my alley. Let me unmute, unsolo the crash. Yeah, it's really, yeah, I'm into that. Okay, so let's just keep it going. I feel like as I moved forward in the structure, you know, it was interesting because when we were working yesterday, I think what happened was I just kind of like started building my beat kind of in the middle of the project. And I think I created 2 little build-up ideas. One being this one, and the second being this one, where I took the tom pattern and put it on, instead of the low toms, on the high toms. And so I think I did that here. And just to show people, so I think tom break, yeah, so here, I'll make the tom buildup pink so you can see it. But yeah, so those are copies of each other. I'm gonna make this drop, I guess. It's kind of like my fast hats. I'll make this green. And you can just, I want to start showing you guys, oops, let's keep it consistent, how much of this track is like pretty much copied around. And maybe like I copied a big section and then changed one thing to make it seem like it was different. So I think, yeah, if I might be, yeah, I think this is also green. Okay, so that's that. Yep, those are all the fast hi-hat sections. And then you can see already that like this stuff is a total copy of this stuff. Yes, that's like, you know, what I'm doing is like I'm making these chunks, you know, trying to keep variation and changes happening maybe like every 8 bars, sometimes sooner. And then once I get a good chunk, I'll copy the whole section by highlighting a section of time and doing Shift Command D. And then, you know, like I said, changing one thing. So I feel like, you know, here's a good example. So this section, which is like a carbon copy of this section, the one difference was that here there's no ride. Here I just added the ride and I added the rim shot. So it's like I didn't really have to write any new ideas to make this final drop in the song. I just copied something I already did. I guess I just copied a bunch of things I already did, but in a new combination that hadn't happened yet. Do people see sort of like how I'm thinking about this from like a structural standpoint? And yeah, obviously I'm listening to everything and using my intuition, but the idea here, especially if you're interested in house and techno, have you ever felt like you made 3 minutes or even 4 minutes of a track and you need to do a 5th minute and you feel like you need to come up with like a brand new idea to like keep it interesting? Like, do you hear does that? Yeah. And then there's times where like maybe you're like, just that last thing doesn't really fit in the rest of the song. It seems kind of random. Has anyone ever felt that way where you're like, you added something kind of random? This type of process can be a great way to avoid adding something that might not need to be added. And, you know, it's just interesting because like, you know, there can be times where maybe you create a new idea at the very end of the song and you realize you don't need it, but then maybe you can make a whole new song out of that. And I feel like that's kind of another risk that we run when we're like just making music, is like we come up with so many ideas that like you could have 5 song ideas in just one song. And what's cool is if you use the save as feature in your track, you can like have made a whole EP in like a weekend because you're just like, okay, I'm gonna save as, delete all that shit, finish this, go back, delete all that other stuff, make a different track out of the same shit, you know. And I've definitely done that before. And there's times where, you know, like the second idea that like came at the very end, the track that becomes, it becomes my favorite track of the weekend or whatever, you know. So it's just like, I feel like there's just a lot of power in like, I don't know, going with the flow and, you know, just letting the song be what it wants, you know. And if this wants to be its own song, you gotta, it's not always easy to know, but sometimes you just gotta try and then you'll see what happens. All right, let's see. So I think that's some good sort of overview with the structure. But let me talk about some other detail work that I did to avoid making this song feel like it was just a copy of a copy. So I think a couple other key moments beyond the shit that I just copied. I wanted to drop by, let's see, I guess here we're like a 1.5 minutes into the song and the toms have been playing for quite a while. So I wanted to try having a drop where there were no toms, especially because this build has a lot of toms. So thinking about that contrast, here's what I did. Sweet. So yeah, the idea was like this buildup was all toms, so I felt like, oh, I need to give people a break from the toms. It's a lot of toms. And one little thing that I did, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but it was just the way I'm thinking about it. So the kick drum, normally I don't touch the decay on it. Like I just leave it on the stock setting because I think it's really good as is. But I thought, oh, maybe I'll cut the toms and make the kick a tiny bit longer. Maybe you can hear the difference. Here's the kick normally. Here's the kick when it plays without the toms. It's kind of tiny. It's not that big of a difference, but I thought like I'll do it just in case. And what I did was, instead of coming up with a new idea for this section, I muted 1, 2, 3, 4 toms and just had one play. So it's actually not a new idea. It's just less of an idea you've already heard, which I think is an awesome way to work. You know, like it's a great way to make people think there's something new, but you're actually not adding anything new. So yeah, check it out. And what I do is here, you can tell that I unmute one of the toms that was muted over here. I also added a hi-hat. And then once we get here, we're back into full tom. So like I'll solo just so that you can really like appreciate what's going on. I'm gonna just mute everything except for the toms in this track. And it's super obvious what's happening. Oh wait, shit, I fucked up. This one. So I'm just unmuting toms from the pattern. And by doing that, it feels like I'm creating a whole new moment in the song, which was good for being fast, you know, not having to tinker with a new idea, and everything's very cohesive. And I feel like, yeah, it's just the simple. I'm a big fan of like taking the path of least resistance, like whatever's the simplest solution. If I can find it, I'm gonna try and go for it. So that was that. Definitely was thinking about the contrast. One other thing that was pretty important for this section was such a busy buildup. I really wanted to make sure I had space, so I cut the toms for a full measure, little bit of pause, and then I had this little rim shot idea as kind of like it's almost like using the rim shot as a snare. And then I decided to make it a motif where I just wanted it to keep on happening. And then it's gone. So I thought, you know, just that's a mid-range idea. It plays off of the toms because I feel like it was pretty important for this section, because without it, this section would be very boring. Honestly, this works too. You know, it's fine. But I felt like adding it. It's all good. But that's you know, it's something I'm always thinking about is like, did I need to add that at the end of the day? Yeah, because less is more in my opinion. But I feel like most importantly for this exercise and in general, like while I can have these judgments and it's like I can't help but like mention some of these things, but at the end of the day, I'm here to be like, yo, this song, this 909 challenge was a snapshot in time and emotion, and whatever it turns out to be, at the end of the day, like, you know, I gotta love it. It's like it was like capturing the moment of us being on Zoom together and me fucking literally plugging in random squares and being like, this is what it is. I'm gonna just live with it and run with it. And, you know, maybe I'll try DJing this at some point and people will like it. And I'll be like, wow, that's random, you know? But yeah, I do think like letting go of, you know, trying to change every aspect of your track is just super important, even though it can be something that we all want. And just being done and moving on to the next thing is super powerful. Anyways, okay, so that was one unique moment, that stripped down drop. Here, let's see. I feel like a lot of these drops ended up being a bit different. This buildup was a copy of this, but I just did it for half as long. Cool. And this drop, this is actually the very first time in the whole track where the kick and toms play with nothing else at all. If we go to all the other drops, even this one had the ride cymbal. So that was like the only difference. And I feel like if you listen to this track all the way through, when you get here, you do feel like something different is happening. Even this drop, which is pretty stripped down, it didn't have the toms, but it had a clap on every beat. This one, no clap, yes toms. So it's like, I'm really just like milking everything I can out of like these basic ideas and being like, have I played this by itself? Does it work? Do I need to add something because it's too stripped down? Like I'm really trying to play with all of those variables. And by doing that, I'm getting more, you know, it's in classical music, there's, I feel like there's a big tradition of like there's a whole type of composition called a fugue, and fugues are pretty crazy because what you would do is you would get like 5 notes, and the composer would have to turn those 5 notes into a full song. It's kind of techno, low key. They would take these 5 notes, they would play with the order, they would play with like, you know, the rhythm, and just using these 5 notes over and over in such crazy ways that you might not even recognize them, but it's all related to those 5 notes. And I feel like that's what makes the song, that's what they cared about. It's the idea of like, you have an idea, how much can you develop that idea? Because it's like you could always add just a new idea, but there's something really creative and interesting about developing an idea that you already have. And so that's what I'm trying to do here. And I feel like anyone who's interested in techno, especially, the whole idea is like, how can you add as few ideas as possible and ride one idea for 8 minutes, you know? So yeah, just this is more shit that I'm thinking about, is like, there are ways to keep it interesting. You know, people ask like, dude, how do you turn a loop into a track? Well, just make a busy loop and then try muting different things. Could be one way, you know? And it's like, realizing that you can always take things away, I think is just it's something that we can often forget. That's that. At, let's see, this is probably like, yeah, 3 minutes into the track. This is like the home stretch. I felt like I wanted to have some sort of new moment that had not happened yet. And so for that, I chose just doing, was really lazy and just chose the snare roll. I did some fun stuff to it, but it was really simple. And I just want to strip everything down. Here's the moment. Great. For the track, it really gets the job done, because at this point in the song, like, even though there's been pretty stripped down stuff, I feel like there hasn't been like a long pause, especially with the kick and the toms. And so I really wanted to do something that was in contrast to what I'd already done. And yeah, like, you know, we have a couple bars where it's just the ride and the rim shot. And I feel like that simplicity builds a lot of tension. And then, you know, threw in this 16th note snare roll, you know, just filled out the entire grid like that, and did a little bit of automation just to make it a little bit more fun. Let's see, where's the snare? I think it's this one. So I have the decay starting short and then getting longer. And here, I'll turn off the pitch so you can just see what that sounds like. The cool thing about that is the same thing that the ride cymbal is doing. And this is another nice thing to think about. You can, if you have like automation in one sound, maybe you can do something similar in another sound that's playing at the same time to make it feel like the two sounds are doing the same thing, which is what happens. So check it out. Super simple idea. This same idea I think about all the time when I'm using synths, because like a lot of people, you know, you can have synth automation where your synths get from like really short notes to really long. Yeah, so it's super fun when you have a bunch of synths all getting shorter and longer at the same time, or your synths and your drums are doing that. So that idea, this idea of like different things the same type of automation happening on different sounds, I think is really cool. I also added this like pitch bend just to make it a little bit more fun. Did some random shit. I feel like it's not the most elegant approach, but it worked. And so I'm like, yeah, dude, it fucking works. I'm moving on. Yep. Little bit of pause with the rides. Little bit of extra, what is this? A clap maybe? Yeah, extra clap just to help people know that the drop is about to happen. And this motif I reused from like over here with the rim shot. So I just thought, like the more it's like recycling the same types of ideas just helps. And I think that takes us pretty much to the end of the track. You've heard everything that I've already done at this point. And what's cool is like early on, I did a bunch of this like little detail shit with like little bits of automation and like little fills. And then I just started copying. So I didn't really need to do all that much detail stuff within the latter half of the song. And it was more about like recombining different things that had detail stuff kind of embedded within it. Do people understand what I'm talking about? It's like I'm getting these chunks that have the detailed stuff inside. And then at the end of the track, I'm just doing the chunks in different combinations. And if I need to clean something up, I can get in there, but I feel like I'm not going, measure by measure for 4 minutes, adding an extra hi-hat. Do people understand that? Cool, because that would take so long and wouldn't be worth it. Let me talk about mixing and mastering briefly. Mixing, the only mix thing that I did was I made the rim shot like 2 dB louder than the other sounds. Yeah, I guess. And I made this kick drum a little bit quieter too. This is like the kick drum that I used at the very beginning. This one, I made this kick drum a little bit quieter. Oh, kick beat, just a little bit quieter. Because I didn't want it to be louder than the actual kick that comes in at the drop. So that was why I did that. The rim shot, I really wanted that to be the focus of the mid range, and so 1.2 dB. I was like, I just a little bit, because I really do think the stock Ableton drum kit is mixed really well. Like I don't feel like I generally need to tweak the mix too much here. There are times where I'll add a little bit of like low boost to the kick, where I'll not EQ2. There's times where if I feel like the kick isn't loud enough or heavy enough, I might do something like that to give the kick a little bit more low end. But I didn't feel like I actually needed it for this. So I was like, you know what? It doesn't really need it. I'm going to go without it. For my mastering, so I ended up putting a tiny, tiny bit of reverb, which I would probably never do. But I was like, it just helps make it sound a little bit, it just felt like, because it was just the 909 and it was so stripped down, I was like, just a tiny, tiny bit. One thing that's nice about this, it gives it a little bit of a stereo thing, which I thought was kind of nice, but wouldn't normally do this. I could have easily put it on just the, like often for a clean mix, you might not want reverb on your kick and your bass, unless you're making techno, which sometimes you do want that. But for this, what I would look out for is if my kick and tom started sounding really muddy with the reverb, and if I did too much, it probably would be a factor. Like that's kind of annoying, but tasteful. If I turn it off, you can hear the difference. You hear it more with the hi-hat stuff. But yeah, just thought for this, it worked. There's plenty of, I'd say 99% of the time I wouldn't even do this. And there's often times where I like my drums completely dry. So, it's funny because I'm normally like no reverb on my drums ever. And now I'm here on the song, I was like, you know what, fuck that. I'm doing it the opposite way that I normally would. And then what else? I decided to put Saturator on. It helps give it like a little bit more of like, just like a dirtiness. It also makes it quite a bit louder, I'm sure. And then put a limiter. The main thing I'm looking for is making sure this doesn't go past like -12. Oh wait, and the saturator is also kind of doing some like compression to this track, but yeah, I did this shit real quick. And then one thing that I'm a big fan of is, here, where did it go? I'll sit down here. So one thing that I'm a big fan of, I probably loaded it up already. I'll use Serato or Rekordbox to like look at my waveform to just help me double check my mix and my master. Often when, you know, when you're, one of the biggest things that we care about in mastering is loudness. So, because look, this is the basic idea here. Let me rearrange this shit. If I have the perfect mix in the track, but let's say the gain is just like here, I could have a perfect mix, but I play the track in a DJ set and it's super quiet and I need to turn up the volume. This is kind of like the big like focus of mastering, I think. Where if you were listening to an album and you were on your couch, you would want every song to play and you wouldn't want to have to get off your couch to adjust the volume. You wouldn't want to be like, listen, grooving, and then a new song comes on and you're like, fuck, this song's too quiet. Or like, oh, this next song comes and it's too loud. You need to get off your couch and turn down the volume. You want to just be able to chill and not touch the volume if you're listening through songs. Mastering, I feel like the most basic focus that we want to do, that we want to like try and nail, is just get a good loudness, so that if we're DJing our song, it's a comparable volume to the song that plays before. There's other elements of mastering that we could dive into, but there are many tracks where all I do is just put a limiter on my master, crank it up until the gain is hitting somewhere between -6 and -12. I'm using my ears to make sure it sounds good. This is what crunching it. So this would be like not cranking your limiter hard enough sounds like. Just quiet. And then this is what too much. Does it sound a little weird to anyone? Right, like, so if I strike, you know, I'm looking for that balance point between too quiet, between too fucked up, really. And I think here, like, there's times where I'd go for more gain reduction, but I don't think it's the saturator. I think is fucking crunching shit. So this feels totally appropriate. Let's see where I had it before. Might have cranked it a little bit higher when I did it yesterday, but I feel like that's still within a decent range. What I'll then do is load it up into like a DJ program so I can just double check things with like how the waveform looks. What I'm looking for, so here's like, you know, some other people's songs, you know, we're seeing like the big kick drum. Yeah, here's like another song that's random. I wanted to make like a 140 BPM like remix of like that song, which is, yeah. Like a trance remix of like some EDM shit. That's why that was my idea for that. But yeah, so loaded this up. Like honestly, it might be a little too cranked. It might be cranked a little too hard, but I think this is fine. You know, I'm seeing like big waveform. It's not like a total brick. And let me just show you what it would look like. Those two other scenarios of like what my track would look like if I didn't hit the limiter hard enough versus too hard. I'm going to show you guys what that shit looks like and sounds like, because I think that will be very helpful for just understanding the basics of what we're doing when we master shit. So boom. So this is, let me do quiet master. Okay. And then let me, oh wait, shit. No, I need to fucking do that on a drop. Yeah, so let me redo that. Let's do it here. Quiet master, replace. Okay, and then let's crank that shit. Okay, and this is loud master. Loud master. Okay. And then let's do no master, no limiter, but just cranked. Sorry for everyone. This is no limiter. Okay. All right, so now we have 3 very different audio files. Here, okay, sweet. So here's no master. Oh wait, that's no limiter. Where did Quiet Master go? Did I not drag it? I did not. Let's do Quiet Master first. See how small that is? The size of these waveforms like relates to the amplitude or the volume, the loudness. Here's my actual master. Oh wait, also here, Serato does like an auto compensation thing where like it adjusts the gain to try and help you out. And I'm gonna undo that so that we can get a good, this is the actual volume versus, do people hear the difference in how much louder my thing is, right? This is what too loud sounds like. And sometimes you could want a track like that. Like that's fucking, you know, fuck it, just like fucked up sounding. And there's a lot of crazy techno that's like that. For this type of track, I feel like it loses the funkiness. And what's happening, this limiter, so what it does is it says, let's go back to Ableton real quick. The limiter, it says when this ceiling, wherever that's placed, you're telling Ableton that no volume can exceed, you know, minus 0.3 dB or 0 dB if I put it in. And the interesting thing is, like, it doesn't matter if we look at our meter, it doesn't matter how much louder I crank everything else. It's still at 0, 0, 0. It's a limit. We could set this lower and then it would be at minus 6.75. So it's just literally turning down the volume whenever the volume would get higher than 6.75. It's turning it down, and that's what this yellow meter does. It's that shows you how much the volume is coming down. And you can see like it didn't really get a big difference in terms of how loud it was when I turned this volume down, but you could see now Ableton is turning, this limiter is turning the gain far less down than it was when it was like over here. You guys see the mechanics of how this limiter works? Okay, cool. This is like the only plugin you really need to know for like mastering your track. So back to the examples. This is what it sounds like when you don't have a limiter and the shit's cranked. I'm gonna lower it down because it's gonna hurt our ears. So it's distorting, it's just sounding crazy. So the limiter can help you clean up the mess. It can keep things clean, but I feel like in general, what I'm looking for is between -6 and -12 on my master normally. If that's happening, I know that things aren't going to be too squashed. It'll still have like a nice sort of feel to it, but it'll also be loud. Because when you really crank the master, you get a very compressed sound, which means all of your, when things are really squashed, you cannot have quiet sounds. Everything becomes loud, essentially, is the idea. And a lot of funkiness comes from when you have a quiet sound and then a loud sound. Maybe, you know, and here, maybe I could show like a super, super quick example of that. Because I feel like this is a good crash course in compression. Okay, sweet. So check this out. Super funny like example. I'm gonna have these kick drums go from being really quiet to like full volume. Let's take a listen. Just get rid of that. Okay, you can hear that, right? Like starting quiet gets louder, right? So here's, let me make sure my mastering is good. Master. Let's set this at 0 and, okay, cool, that's fine. So boom, this is 0, test 1. And then here, check this out. I'm gonna crank this shit. So here. Techno. Here we go. Boom. Okay, let's get these going into Serato and just show you guys the difference. So Here, you can see how the kick drums get bigger and bigger. Here, you can see like this kick drum is not getting that much bigger than this. What's happening is the reverb is getting bigger. Let me turn the reverb off and we'll show you the difference there. This is like, I hope this is helpful. We'll see. So test 3, and then we'll turn this back down to a reasonable. Cool. That's right. This is no reverb. So this is the difference between cranking your master, your limiter, versus riding it kind of like more gently. So you can see that like the kick drums are getting, you have some quiet shit, some loud shit. It's obviously getting limited right here. And then here's the other version. They're all the same. Do you guys see that? They're all the same now. Isn't that crazy? And so that is what like our mastering does. It can make everything louder. But here's the cost. If you want shit to be funky and you want things to be quiet and then louder, then you don't want to over crank your master. So this is like the balance point that we're trying to strike. When I'm mixing and mastering the tracks, like I think I generally care for my kick drum to like come through nice and full. And then hopefully everything else doesn't sound too fucked up or squashed. That's kind of like a basic approach. But yeah, there's times where like, I'll just do a bunch of these like test bounces using my ears, using just this one limiter plugin, looking at the visual, reference, and it yields great results. And dude, I've had moments like last year I guess it was this year, I did a collab EP with Claude Von Stroke, and he's so fucking picky about shit. And he hired this mastering guy who took 3 months to like master it because he's like reserved for like, 3 months ahead. And I sent like a test bounce of something with like one of these limiters. And Claude was like, yo, can we, for one of the songs, he was like, yo, can we use your master? And I didn't even like, it was like a test bounce. I didn't even like tweak it. And like I would have probably, but I was just like, sure. And I feel like, that's not necessarily, I feel like that's just a testament to this guy. He might have done a bunch of fancy stuff that like just made the track different, not necessarily better. And I think Claude liked the original version, which was pretty much like very light on the mastering processing, but just like the mix felt pretty good. And so I just cranked up the volume and it was done. I do mastering for a lot of like artists on the label. And there are times where I will do more work on the mastering to compensate for issues that I feel like are part of the mix, volumes being off on different things. Cool thing about this 909 challenge is the volumes are pretty much dialed in on the drum kit. And so I didn't have to do much work either on the mix or the master because of that. All right, so I think that's, dude, nice. We're at an hour. I feel like that covers the main things that I wanted to talk about. Was this helpful diving in on the structure stuff as well as the mastering component, mixing stuff? Sweet, awesome. Cool. Well, so I think couple things before we call it. So first off, just I think if you take one thing away from this weekend, I would want you guys to have fun making music. And just to check in, did anyone have fun doing this challenge? Yes, let's go. And I think if you can have fun when you're making music, it's not, sometimes we have challenges and there's like a fucking track that you see the magic in and you're kind of wrestling with it. That happens to me all the time. But I think whenever we can get back into that state of just having fun and taking the pressure off, which I feel like is the biggest part, when you're just like, I don't give a fuck if this song's good or not, I'm just going to make it. That's the best mindset. That's when you're going to have the most fun. And that's when you're going to make the best track. Funny enough. So that's the biggest takeaway. Yeah, I feel like, I really hope that, I know I got some messages of people who like normally struggle with finishing songs and felt like they were able to work much faster than normal. Give me a thumbs up if you felt like you were able to do this way faster than you normally can. And I would say, dude, you gave me a thumbs up just now, however you can make your normal process faster and more fun, like that would also be awesome. Because I think, yeah, you know, for anyone who struggles with structure, mixing, or mastering, the faster you get at going through the process of making a song, the more experience you'll get mixing your shit, mastering your shit, and then the better you'll get at those skills. Because it's like with any new skill, the more you do it, the better you get. And those later stages of production are just very different than coming up with a melody or a beat or finding samples. So it's like, that's why I feel like it's a sequential issue. That's why people are often like better at making loops than finishing songs, because you start more loops than you finish songs, right? And that normally happens, but we can finish more songs, we'll get really good at finishing songs, mixing, mastering, etc. Yeah, so I feel like those are my big takeaways. I really hope that people got like a good experience out of this free workshop. So fun, so good to hear all of your guys' songs. I will keep on listening through my inbox. There's just a ton of stuff. And yeah, just like wish everyone like the best with their musical journeys. For those of you that are like, yo, dude, I want to keep on doing stuff and want to like keep on growing. I decided, so I did this last year where I did like a boot camp workshop at the end of the year, and I'm gonna run it back this year. Had a great experience last year, met so many homies. I see a couple of them in the crew. Angelo, you're like in the middle of my screen right now. Super, super fun, really great experience. And I feel like, here's the interesting thing. A lot of people might think like, oh, do I need to be a professional musician, or do I need to be like really good at Ableton to do this? Do I need to use Ableton? Here's my answer. It's like, all that you need to be a good fit for this type of experience is to have that fucking passion and that commitment to putting in the time. Because yeah, it's going to take time to like work on songs, but if you are willing to set the time to work and you are excited to do so, dude, we had people in the crew who downloaded the free trial last year for this weekend and then ended up finishing a song that we then released as like a boot camp compilation. And it's fucking crazy. Like in just a couple weeks, a bunch of people made some crazy songs. And just a few weeks ago, Bad Boombox sent me this. This is a song that was made in the boot camp. Here, let me try and find it. Boot camp highlights. Give me a thumbs up if the audio works on this.
So you could shake it. Oh man, you crazy.
One of our homies made this in the boot camp, and Nastia is playing it.
You know I'm gonna shake my little dick, get my balls, shake 'em quick. Shake my little dick, get my balls, shake 'em quick. I'm gonna shake my little dick, get my balls.
And yeah, shout out Alex Anderson, aka Nasty Nachos. That's an original vocal. And yeah, you know, just like music, you know, he had a what do you think? Do you think he was like having a really like serious day in the studio when he made that? Not at all. He was like making himself laugh, fucking around, which I feel like sums up the type of energy that I believe in for this sort of experience, where it's like it's about having fun, feeling the energy. Doesn't matter like how much experience you have, you know, you will learn. But yeah, just like, and it's funny because I think, if I'm not mistaken, so, you know, he might have made that track in like an hour. And would have been, and this is a guy who like is super technical, super advanced producer, and like he had to like strip away all of the tools that he normally uses and make something really simple. And now like an insanely dope DJ is like playing his song in a fucking awesome set. Like, yeah, if you don't know Nastia, she's super tight. Yeah, and it's just crazy. She's really hip and really like, she only plays sick tracks. So it's like, it's no joke, you know, seeing that sort of support come in. And I feel like, yeah, it's crazy. A bunch of the homies made tracks that got signed to crazy labels like Desert Hearts, Street Tracks. I did one of the challenges, this is crazy. There was a prize, and the prize of the challenge was I would do a collab with that artist. Like whoever won the challenge, I would do a collab. And we did a collab, and that song just came out on Shall Not Fade. as part of their like 6-year anniversary compilation. Let's see if I can find it. Only You, Justin J. So yeah, shout out Edward White, made this track. Yeah, we went crazy on it, made it over Zoom. And yeah, dude, so like hopefully we'll do one little challenge like that as well, where I'll get to do like a collab with someone who joins the class. Super fun. But yeah, so just a couple logistics about the class itself. So first of all, anyone who did it last year, message me if you want to do it again this year, because I want to take in that information, make sure that people who did it last year will get a good experience if they want to do it again, and keep that development going. But it is going to be a little bit different this year. It's going to be 4 weeks, and we will do a lecture and a workshop every week. And so on Mondays, I'll be talking about some random shit that I think is cool, give you a challenge to work on, and then we will have a workshop session where I'll go through people's submissions and give suggestions or talk about things that were really good, things that I think you should work on, just help push you. If you're someone who like is super experienced, I'll be like, yo, you're using this on every track, make a track without it just for fun. Like I love pushing people in those kinds of ways. If you're a brand new beginner, we will talk about like pretty basic fundamental things that I think the advanced people will often benefit from hearing. And this is fucking crazy. So there was this girl who had never, I think she'd maybe been producing for maybe 2 or 3 months, never used Ableton. She, producing for just a few months and then downloaded Ableton, made a track. It's funny because she was like a dubstep producer. She liked dubstep, but she tried making a house song. And then Ame from Innervisions was like, yo, I really like this song. It's like, she was like, I don't know who that is. Like, what? Just so crazy. So yeah, like, and that track was made in the workshop too. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, it's just, that's the fucking crazy shit about music, is it's like, it can be a surprisingly level playing field between people experienced and beginners. And I think if you are experienced, being around some beginners can be so inspiring, because you're like, how the fuck did they think of doing that? I never would have done that, because maybe you went to recording school and they said, always do this way. And you see someone who broke every rule and made a banger or a dope track that you love. And you're like, wow, I've been living in a box. So I'm a big fan of the wide range of like experience level. And yeah, just, so what else do I need to mention about it? Okay, so the program will start on December 20th. Yep, December 20th. So it's like, hopefully this catches you holiday season. Hopefully if you're in school, you're on break, or if you're working, you get a little bit of downtime so that you can really commit to music. And I feel like one of the biggest things is like this like boot camp type of thing. I feel like my goal is to, at the very least, be your fucking coach to like push you to go that extra mile. Cause I feel like anyone who's like, if you're like exercising, for instance, it's like you always work way harder when there's someone telling you to do something. Or if you are working out with a friend who's also in the gym and you're seeing what they're doing, you're like, wait, they're not giving up. I need to keep on going. And I feel like that's the coolest part about this shit, is like being in that group experience where you're all going through the ringer with the crew. One thing that was so fucking dope was I feel like people really bonded and came together over the course of working together. And it's wild because like a year later, 4 homies who were in that workshop, they just threw a party in LA on Friday, and I went, and they were all DJing, and they'd never met in person, and it was awesome, and it was really fun. And yeah, it's crazy. I've gotten to meet a lot of the homies in person just from being on tour and like, yeah, just being around. And I feel like a lot of people who've been in the same city have met in person, and just like that sense of community is just the coolest thing. Because yeah, like honestly, that might be the most valuable part of like, or that might be one of the most important parts of growing as a producer, is just having fellow producers who you can send your music to, relate to, hype each other up, be there for each other, and do so in a positive environment. Because I feel like it's easy to send music to that one grumpy friend who has amazing taste, but just always kills the vibe. And I feel like often you can get the vibe killed on a song that just isn't done yet, but could be amazing if you just worked on it a little bit more. Or maybe the song is perfect as is, and they just hadn't had breakfast yet or whatever, you know? So it's like, I feel like being in a positive environment can really help, because yeah, often like we can be our own toughest critics and stuff. And you might be surprised by like random homies in the group who are like, dude, yeah, that song's sick. And you're like, really? I thought it was trash. And then you're like, you know, all of a sudden you're changing your own perspective on your music and realizing that you might have been too tough on it, for instance. Anyways, so that's yeah, had a really great experience. The course is a pretty expensive course. It is going to be $2,000 for 4 weeks. I know that's a big commitment. This is definitely for people who are ready to make a fucking intense commitment in terms of your time and your energy. Because yeah, especially if you're new to Ableton, I don't think it's a problem. It's just like, if you are ready to grind and like work hard while having a ton of fun. And like, I'm very uncompromising about the fun part. Like that always remains my number one priority. Cause it's like, I don't believe that like this shit is really worth it if you completely lose touch with the fun of it. What's up, Aaron? Aaron did it last year. What's up, my dude?
Oh, I was just raising my hand for later, dog. But no, I was gonna say bullshit. I'm calling you bullshit. It ain't worth it. Come on. Yo, the boot camp was the best decision of my life. Straight up, it was the best decision of my life. Anyone that Megan's laughing, Angela's laughing, everybody's laughing that did the boot camp last year. And all of them are fucking thriving right now. Like every single fucking person in the boot camp last year is killing it right now. Straight up killing it. They're making shit that I'm like blown away by every time they send me shit. Yo, he's gonna send you an email. I know everyone's in the chat like asking, how do I sign up for this boot camp? He's gonna send you an email. You're gonna sign up for this boot camp. It's gonna change your fucking life, dude. Like, I don't care how much it is, it's worth every penny. It's worth every fucking penny. Justin is the like greatest person I've ever met. He's so amazing. Like, just an example. I wrote a song called Drug Boogers on a gnarly challenge, okay? And I just like freestyled a bunch of stupid shit on a microphone. I threw an overdrive on a master, which I thought was crazy. Like everybody fucking thinks is crazy. And it's like, I got that shit signed, and it's literally just drums, a bass line, and then me being an idiot on a microphone. And I got that shit fucking signed, and hella people wanted to remix that fucking song. So like, it's worth every fucking penny to join this boot camp. And if you don't do it, you're only limiting yourself. And that's all I'm gonna say. Other than everybody in the chat right now, if you all need any help, hit me up on Instagram. I can help you like with your limitations and the challenges and everything. And so will Megan, and so will Angelo, and so will all the people that were veterans of Justin's boot camp. Because legit, it's the truth. Okay, it's the fucking truth. I love you, Justin.
Dude, I'm sorry, I love you too. I'm sweating, dude. I'm hot, dude. Wow. Yeah, that was beautiful. We did not coordinate on that testimonial. But yeah, Aaron, dude, really can't thank you enough for the kind words, man. And yeah, dude, been a pleasure getting to know you and see the journey, dude. It's been awesome, man. And that goes for everyone who I've gotten the chance to work with. It's very, very dope. Yeah, seeing all the exciting stuff, the great music, like the great people. Yeah, like this whole thing of like, you know, helping people with making music. It's something that has been a big part of my life for a long time, where growing up, most of my homies didn't like house music, didn't like DJs, production, etc. And I felt like at a certain point I was like, yo, like are you curious about this shit? Like, can I teach you? Because that way I have a friend who's into it. And yeah, like that was a big part of it. Also became like, I had my guitar player homie. I was like, I want to learn about chords. I'll teach you about making house music. And we did like a little switcheroo. And you know, that dude, his name's Benny Bridges. Now he makes awesome house music. His first house track was a bootleg of Whitney Houston. And we put it out as a free bootleg on SoundCloud. And a major label was like, yo, this is fire, and helped us clear the sample so that it's not a bootleg remix. And then it officially came out. It's like on Spotify and stuff. It's like Dance with Somebody. Anyway, excuse me. So yeah, just crazy shit. Crazy shit can happen whether you're brand new or you're super experienced. In terms of this boot camp thing, if you're curious about it, okay, so yo, if you did it before, message me and let me know that you're curious. I want to like see which part of the last year crew wants to run it back, and I'll take in that information and kind of get creative with how to best enhance your guys' experience. And if you are curious about doing it for the first time, I'll send this over email, but here, let me find, I have like a link for info and a link for scheduling a call to chat about it. Yeah, like hit me up if, you know, it's like, hit me up. You can sign up for like an interview if you're like, yeah, dude, like maybe I'm on the fence, but I really want to do it. You don't need to be 100% down, but yeah, please be conscientious about it. Here are the links. Okay, so yo, here is more info on the boot camp, everyone. I will send this over email just in case it gets lost in the group chat, but here's link to info on it. It is a little bit different than last year, but for the people who are running it back, yeah, like I want to get creative about how to, yeah, fucking keep challenging you and doing cool shit. And then let's see, one more thing. Yeah, if you just immediately are like, yo, I want to do this and run it, I will drop a second link, which is my schedule. So yeah, hit me up if you have any questions on Instagram about this stuff. I'll take, I can chill for quite a bit longer just to answer any questions, whether it's about the boot camp stuff or just random Ableton shit. Like I love nerding out about music stuff in general. It's always fun to answer questions. So yeah, happy to take the time to do that. So you can ask literally about anything. I don't care. Be about my hair, whatever. We'll hang out and yeah, I'll send all this stuff on email in case it gets lost when we wrap. And so yeah, if you have questions, please raise your hand with the like reaction thing, and we'll just we'll get chugging. But yeah, awesome. And if you got to peace out, big love to everyone who rolled through this weekend, and keep on fucking around, keep on making music no matter what, keep on having fun no matter what, and hopefully I'll hear all your guys' stuff sometime soon. All right, so let's get into questions. Nick, what's up, man?
Yo, Justin, thanks for doing this so much. You're an incredible teacher. Love hearing from you. Think I'm gonna do the boot camp, but got some questions for you that I will interview with you on. But
yeah,
when I'm making music, and like in particular my mix, like I always find that it's super muddy, and I'll do some corrective EQ, I'll do some compression, and I just don't end up in a better space. So like, what like quick tips or like mindsets should I be thinking about to like clean up those mixes a little bit without doing too much of like the traditional mixing flow?
Totally, dude. Hyped you brought this up because I feel like, especially with the low ends, like dialing that shit in for club music is essential. You know, no one likes a muddy track in the club. It's not fun and it doesn't feel satisfying. So I feel like the annoying answer is like every song can be different, but I think in just like 30 seconds, I can hit you with some things to think about. So first, double check your whatever's playing in your bass line, like your bass, whether it's a bass line or toms. Maybe a good place to start would be solo that shit and make sure that your bass by itself doesn't sound muddy. One thing that could be an issue is if you're using a synth, making sure that it's in mono so that the notes don't overlap. That's like a really great starting point to make sure you're not getting muddy just between different bass notes. If you have reverb, that can be another thing that can cause issue. So you want to make sure that if you do have reverb on your low end, you know, maybe do a low cut so that your reverb isn't adding excessive low end to your bass. Let's say your bass is now chilling by itself. The next thing is how it sits with the kick drum. With the kick, okay, if you're making house music, I would say that 909 kick that comes with Ableton is surprisingly great at not creating muddy issues because it's tuned in a place that, for whatever reason, for many bass lines does not cause problems. The 808 kick drum, on the other hand, is a kick drum that can create a lot of issues with bass because it's a very tonal kick. And so if your bass line is playing a different note than the 808 kick drum, that can create a ton of issues, and no amount of EQ and sidechaining can like fundamentally solve the problem that you're dealing with. So the idea that I'm touching upon here is like finding the right kick sample for the baseline idea that you're using can be the best solution, where it requires zero processing and zero like tweaking. You just fucking find that kick sample that beautifully works with the bass line and you're done. That can be a reason why I reuse. If I find a good kick drum sample, there's times where I'll use it on several tracks. And maybe if I'm working on a new song and I'm having this issue, I might go back to that old kick sample that I've used before and see if it helps. And just trying a couple different kicks that work could be a really good solution. Beyond that, I mean, I think, yes, you can do sidechain compression, you can do EQ cutting, but I try and solve the issues first within the sample selection. One last thing that I'll say is, with the sample selection, also the duration of the kick drum can cause problems if you have a really long kick. So sometimes shortening the kick can help drastically. That's why sample selection can solve that problem too, because some kick samples are shorter than others. What else? Bass programming, like the actual rhythms that you do, can be another big factor. Like, you know, some ideas, if you have a bass line that never plays with the kick drum, you're never going to have this issue. Like in Better Off Alone, for instance, which is like just playing, the bass line only plays and the kick doesn't play. So there's no processing needed. And that slaps. So like, you know, you get into issues when your kick and bass actually play at the same time, which I love having kick and bass play at the same time. It sounds great. It's awesome. So it's just like, when you do, that might open you up to more problems. So I know I just hit you with a bunch of stuff, but hopefully is any of that helpful?
Yeah, totally awesome. Thank you again, Justin.
Awesome, dude. And yeah, roll through. Let's chat, dude. It's nice to meet you, man. All right, Lissa, what's up? Dude,
What's
day
up?
2, you're here. Let's go.
Let's go. I'm fucking hyped. Your energy is amazing. I'm stoked. I just wanted to ask, because I am more interested in making like peak hour techno and melodic techno.
Mhm.
So I was just wondering if the boot camp would be, have any type of focus on that specifically.
Oh, well, so, I mean, I think my big mindset is, allowing people to make whatever they want, and I feel like, like with the 909 challenge thing, the idea is you could, I mean, some of the examples I played were super different from each other. Like, and some of the ones that I got, it's like all these different styles could be made with like the same ingredients in terms of like melodic techno stuff. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we had people last year who were totally into that type of music, and yeah, it's like really whatever you want. I feel like there are certain styles of music that I have like more experience with than others. So like hip hop, don't have that much experience with. Melodic techno and stuff. I feel like, I feel like I've dabbled in that stuff. I've had tracks played by like Solomon and like Maceo Plex. Are those like kind of the people you're talking about? Like, is that what you mean by melodic techno?
Yeah, kind of. I also really like Hidden Empire, but also like some of the business techno as well. So it's
Dope.
kind of, a big wide range right now.
Dope.
So.
Awesome. Well, so I feel like a couple things. One, I feel like in general, I love that you actually mentioned a wide range of things, because I feel like as a producer who's trying to learn, there is so much value in being willing to try a bunch of stuff. Because here's the thing, it's like you will learn different things from different styles. And ultimately, if you learn how to make a couple different types of music, you can then like toss it all in the blender and do something super different and unique, you know? So I feel like, yeah, not having a super narrow focus, at least that's been my approach. Like people who have heard some of my music might be surprised to hear me put out like a techno EP or indie rock or this or that. And I just like, for me, I feel like exploring it all has made me a better producer. When I feel like, um, you know, you could ask like, what about my brand? If I'm someone who's like trying to get bookings, like I don't want to confuse people. I feel like that's something that I struggled with for a long time, kind of. And I feel like it's something I've gotten better and better at. And ultimately, I feel like there's always a way to tell your story as an artist. Because if you made something unexpected, there's probably a reason why you were drawn to make that kind of music. Like if you were like, dude, I want to make a hip hop song today. It's like, wow, that's unexpected. Why? You know, it's like, oh, I grew up listening to this stuff. And I feel like anyone who loves you as an artist will enjoy being taken on that journey through all the twists and turns. So I feel like, and just at the end of the day, this goes back to having fun. It's like, you need to just be expressing yourself authentically, whatever that means in the moment. And if it means making a business techno track, let's make the most banging business techno track, and it's going to be really fun. You know, it's just like, if you want to make a Fisher song or this or that, or like something like, you know, Sandstorm, it's like, dude, whatever, like whatever will make you have the most fun is what will end up being the best music. And I feel like, yeah, the goal of the boot camp is to maximize fun. So yeah, I feel like, yeah, I don't think like being particularly interested in one genre versus another is a deal breaker. And I think with the melodic techno stuff, I mean, with each of these genres, there's different things to kind of learn and focus on. And so, yeah, like with melodic techno, for instance, you're going to probably want to be, you know, digging in a bit more on melody, right? Like it's in the fucking name. With business techno, like getting a really banging low end and your drums really smacking, which might not be needed at all for the melodic techno stuff, right? So it's like, I don't know, all of these little things are stuff we can dig in on. And, you know, I feel like ultimately it'll be about like, you know, you'll send me music and I'll have thoughts and comments and maybe references. And, you know, if I understand where you're coming from, and that's kind of the point of us talking, is, you know, if I can understand your perspective, then hopefully I should be able to like help guide you in a way that's true to your like artistic vision and your like artistic intuition. So does that somewhat answer the question?
Yes, thank you. That's amazing.
Awesome.
And you're really easy to learn from, I can tell. So yeah, definitely interested. Thank you.
Awesome. Dude, hyped that you're beginning this whole journey. This is awesome. Super
Yes.
dope. Unreal. Alaska, what's up?
Hi. I was just really obsessed with this assignment because I like that we just had to stick with one thing and focus on it. I was just wondering if there was like another drum kit or instrument that I can make an entire track out of and just focus on that and not
Totally.
worry about other things.
Yeah, dude, there's so many. I mean, I think a good next one could be like the 808. That one's really good. Yeah, like all of the Roland ones. I mean, I think the 909 and the 808 are probably the two to start with. The other ones, you know, it's interesting because you can find these like Ableton comes with like a bunch of stock kits, but depending on the drum machine, it might kind of lend itself to a different aesthetic or style. You know, because some of the ones that were developed like in the early 80s, they sound like 80s pop songs versus the 808 can sound like hip hop versus the 909 can sound like house music or techno. So, and yeah, there's like people who use the 808 on house music and mix and match and stuff, but they all have these different kind of characters and, you know, sort of a vibe. And I feel like it's awesome that you're curious about exploring them because it becomes like, yeah, it's like being an artist with paint and being like, oh, I want a touch of this 90s, you know, like 909 vibe or this like 80s, you know, boogie with that like Lindrum, you know, thing. So, but yeah, it's just, I think starting with the Roland drums, which are all numbered. So that might be a good place to start, but I'm hyped you caught the bug for the drum machines. Like, let's go.
Thank you.
Oh, of course. John, what's up, man? You're muted. Can't hear you yet.
Is this better?
Perfect. What's up, man? How you doing?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much, Justin, man. It's been a sick weekend, very accessible, and really appreciate it. But my question was, so when I was doing the challenge yesterday, I found that I was often listening to, a section, and I was like, oh, wait, this feels a little bit off. Like, is it two measures too short or too long? And then I was realizing, oh, wait, do most of these sections need to be in increments of like 4 measures? Like if it was in like 10, or if it was like 14, it felt a little bit off. And is that something that you implement, do you have thoughts about that, like how you set phrases and stuff?
Totally. So at the end of the day, the coolest thing is there's no fucking rules, and you could have half a measure and then it comes in and you could do fucked up crazy shit. And I have a homie who like her songs are structured in the craziest ways and things just happen unexpectedly, but she does it all in such a sick way that it's awesome. I feel like the way I normally think about it is I feel like I kind of by default think about things in 8-bar chunks generally. But depending on the style and the vibe, if I'm making a song that's really chaotic, I might be thinking about things even sooner, like 4 bars. If I'm making something that's really hypnotic, I might try and keep things really, like the pacing of things really slow, and might be thinking more than 8 bars. Multiples of 8 are kind of like what our ear normally feels when we're just like locked into a rhythm. But yeah, so it's like, it can be fun to be like, you know what, I want to add 1 extra measure right here just to throw people off. So it's like any rule can be broken, but by default, I normally think about 8. Is that helpful?
Totally. And I think that also tied into a thought earlier I had about like balancing adding the nuance, but then not overcomplicating it, and, leaving enough time for you to build the tension. Cause sometimes, that was a little tricky too.
Dude, 1000%. And dude, here's the thing. It's like, I feel like I felt this way so much when I was, in my early days of production, where I was like, should this be 8 bars or 16 bars? Right? Like, do you feel me on that? And you're like, what's the right answer? And the answer is there's no right answer. Like back in the day, dude, people would do these like house music EPs, and there would be like 5 versions of the same exact song with like different structures, because like they're all just different and they're all just work. So I feel like when in doubt, work quickly, try something. You can always duplicate a section to make it longer by highlighting if you're using Ableton and doing Shift Command D. Now it's longer. If you want to cut it in half, highlight, Shift Command Delete. Now it's shorter. And there's times where like, dude, you might like a really good test. Okay, first of all, don't stress about this stuff too intensely if you are by yourself for 10 hours, because you'll just like go crazy. But a really good way to test it is if you have a friend, or like another human that you can sit in the room with or send to someone. It's like, even if you send the song to someone and then you listen while you know that they're listening to the song, you're going to be like, I'm bored. This section's way too long. 5 minutes. So our perception of our own tracks can be somewhat malleable, and we want to try and be as objective as possible, which can be hard.
Right.
If you DJ, I feel like DJing is the ultimate test, where you can be like, hey, I'm going to get it good enough to DJ, maybe take some inspiration from someone else's song, be like, oh, that person made a song that's kind of similar to this idea. I'm going to try using that structure as like a reference. Okay, the first drop was at a minute. Then the next drop was at 1 minute 45. You can look at other people's songs to like help give you suggestions for what you could do. That being said, every song can be different. And at the same time, you can have a song that directly copies someone else's structure, measure by measure, and have a totally different song. Like, as you start looking at song structures and dance music, you realize like everyone's doing the same shit. So it's not what even makes a song original. Just like using the 909 or not using the 909 does not make a song original or unoriginal.
Right.
Is this some helpful stuff for structure?
Yeah, 1000%. Thank you so much.
Of course, dude. JT, am I saying your name right? Awesome.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing, man?
Doing good. What's up?
I had a question about, I know you covered, I guess, loudness kind of using your limiter earlier.
Yeah.
But is there anything that you specifically use to get, I guess, like your range as far as like what is, I guess, how do you use your reference tracks is the best question.
Play a reference track, play my track. Do I want to adjust the volume? That's like the most basic. Do I need to turn down the volume on my speakers because my ears hurt, or do I need to blast it because now the music disappeared? That's the most basic thing. Is that a helpful?
Well,
am I getting to your question or? Not?
Yeah, I guess as far as using a limiter and its perceived loudness at like -6 dB, I have like trouble, I guess, sometimes overblowing, like I guess my aim. And I guess using a loudness meter can like only gets me so far sometimes it feels, but sometimes the track either ends up louder or quieter.
Okay, well, so here's one other thing that this might be getting to your question better. So beyond just the limiter, because you can hit -6 dB or of gain reduction, and your track says it's hitting 0.0 dB and the waveform looks big, but it still doesn't feel loud. It's interesting because like our perception of loudness can be a bit funny. So one of the most interesting things you can do can be within the mix of the song. If you mix your mid-range louder, sometimes your track will feel louder, which is, it sounds like, I don't know, it doesn't sound obvious necessarily, but if you think about it this way, I mean, one thing that can happen sometimes is sometimes we can have low ends that really just eats up the entire master, and we don't have a subwoofer in our studio setup. So there's all of this bass that the speakers are trying to register, and you're not hearing any of it because it's too low or this or that. And at the same time, all of that bass is eating up the volume of your mid-range. And so when you balance your mid-range properly, that can sometimes make your track feel like 10 times louder, even though it still might be hitting 0.0 dB. And so within mid-range, here's like another thing. It's like, if you have vocals in your track, making your vocals louder will make the whole track feel louder. Making your clap louder will make the whole track louder. If you have a lead synth, making that lead synth sound brighter and more in the front of the mix, it's going to make the whole track feel louder. So
because of its perceived loudness.
Yeah, so that's if you're not getting the results you're looking for with just the limiter, then you need to look at the mix. You could clean up the mix with mastering. Like one of the things that I like to do if I'm mastering someone else's track and I feel like it's not where I want it to be. Here, I need to move zoom. Boom. I'm a big fan. This is like one of the jankiest things, and I do it all the time. This multi-band plugin. Here, I'll even do it on this track, and we can do like an A and B test. So here, let's see. Jesus. Okay, so let's say this is where I want my master to be. What I can do is use this multi-band plugin to like isolate the frequencies that I want to boost and then just boost it. So like, let's say I want the whole mid-range and high range to be like a bit louder. What I could do is solo this. I want to find some claps. So I don't want all the way down here because then I'm getting the toms. But so maybe that, and then just boosting. And so it's like maybe we can hear a tiny difference. Let's see. So between, if this was further down, if I had a little bit more headroom, the difference would be slightly more pronounced. Now I'm starting to hear that difference. Do you hear it, dude?
Yeah.
Cool. So it's like, and I think with the mastering side of things, it's like you generally want to be gentle with the tweaking. And, I feel like it's really important to listen to those reference tracks and just make sure that you're not being overly critical on your own music, because there are times where you might be using a reference track that's just different than yours. And so like the volume might just feel a little bit different. And at the end of the day, like it doesn't matter all that much. Like it just needs to be good enough and people won't care that much. You know, it's like your track doesn't need to be the loudest ever. Really, this is about what matters more is I think like the essence of your track, the energy, the emotions, you know, that like, did you put your heart into it? Did you have fun making it? Those things will often be the bigger factor in how well the song turns out. And then these bits of like cleaning up, you know, we want to like move through them, you know, without too much emotional strife. Is often where we'll get the best results, because you can easily ruin a track by over processing the master and being like, fuck, it's still not loud enough, when it's like too loud. Do you feel me on that?
-12, usually like LUFS, I guess, is kind of a good range.
Dude, I don't even know. Like LUFS, like I'd never even think about them. It's like,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, like, so you might be more technically oriented than I am. But yeah, I try my best to go off the feel, and you know, it's like
Just try to cover my ass.
totally, dude, totally. You know, I just wouldn't stress too much about it. You know, if it feels good, show it to some friends. If they're like, yo, this sounds great, you know, it might be good. You know, just it's if you see some, you know, you can send your music to other DJs and, you know, be like, hey man, how did this feel in your set? And if someone says that it felt good, then you're on to something, right? You know, so that's some advice that I have. Is any of that helpful, dude?
No, it's really helpful. Thank you.
Awesome, dude. Best of luck with it, dude.
Yeah,
All
you
right.
too.
Sam, what's up, man?
Yo, what's good? So I really enjoyed doing the 909 challenge. I learned a lot. And I'm really serious about maybe considering doing the whole boot camp thing. But I just had a couple questions. So like I noticed on the website it says like you'll have, by the end of it you'll have like one new release. But I was just wondering, so like is the class kind of more focused on getting one like really good like final mixed and mastered song done in a matter of 5 weeks? Or is it more so like you'll give us kind of challenges every week and then maybe like at the last week, you know, finish or make a song? Because yeah, I really like the idea of kind of having that pressure of like 24 hours.
Yes.
That's really the only reason why I even finished the song last night, was because I
Let's
knew,
go.
yeah,
Yes.
I knew you needed it by 10 a.m. So yeah, I just wanted to know a little bit more about the boot camp.
Yeah, definitely. We're going for quantity is like the name of the game. You know, we're trying to move through the process quickly and move on to the next track. You know, so it's like weekly challenges. So at the very least, you got to make at least one song per week. But often I'm saying like, yo, make as many songs as you can. And I might only have enough bandwidth to like really review one, but there's times where I'm like, quick note about track 2, quick note about track 3, you know, that sort of stuff. But I like, yeah, there were people who made many, many songs. I think people made, there were hundreds of songs made by the end of the week across everybody.
That's a
It was like
lot.
30 people, hundreds.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah. And I mean, there were some people who made like 5 songs and they might have just started Ableton and like had never made one song before. So it's like, yeah, I feel like, you know, everyone's experience can be different, but yeah, like it's not, I feel like perfectionism and over tweaking are often things that can make music harder and can like overcook the music. And back to like the food analogy, it's like, at least for me, my taste, you know, it's like with food, it's like a chef will recommend like getting the steak medium rare or rare. It's like my music, I love shit that's on the rare or raw side. Like I love sushi, you know what I mean? Like, and I feel like, you know, there's times where I'll get insecure while I'm working and I'll do too much stuff. And my friends will be like, dude, version 5 was way better than version 20. And I'll realize like, oh, I'm not even gonna tweak it anymore. I'm just gonna use version 5 and call it a day. Other times I'll be like, shit, I need to undo all this processing that I did, because it's so easy to do production stuff just because you're insecure about your song and your song doesn't actually need it, you know? So it's like, I feel like being in the pressure cooker time crunch environment helps bypass that, because you don't even have the time to like worry.
Yeah.
You just have to get it done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then I know how you mentioned too, like there will be other people in the class at kind of like different levels. And I noticed on the website it says you do like an interview, right? Like a phone call.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, like the people that are in the class, is everyone kind of, is it going to be a wide range of experience, or is everyone going to be kind of like, you know, mid to more experienced, or how do you kind of, I guess, pick people to be a part of the program?
Last year it was super wide. We'll see what happens this year. I feel like, you know, it's something, you know, I feel like I kind of see who is interested and see like, you know, what the vibe is of everyone who is going to do it, and then kind of strategize accordingly for how we can make it the best for everyone. Because that's what's cool. It's like, this is an intimate experience. It's not like a bunch of pre-recorded lectures, you know. It's like, yeah, and it's like you know, I like will know everyone's names. You know, like I'll know who you are. So I'm you know, and
Yeah, I'm pretty serious about it too. And
Yeah.
I guess I don't want to take up too much time, but my last question about it is, I noticed on the website too, the only thing that's really holding me back, it is a little pricey, but I noticed on the website you are doing payment plans. Is that still the thing for this year? And how does
Yeah.
that work exactly? Like,
Absolutely. For payment plans, let's talk like one-on-one. So
Okay.
definitely, if you're interested, hop on the call. We can chat
Yeah.
about it. And yeah, you know, just want to say, like, I know it's a huge financial commitment. And just for anyone who just want to say, like, no one needs to do this experience. Like it's like there's so many different ways to like achieve success as a musician. You know, if you are a fan of learning and being in a more sort of like structured environment to like accelerate your learning, this is like probably a good thing.
Yeah.
That being said, dude, if like YouTube, so like game over, everything's there, you know. It's like
True.
everything's there. Yeah, I feel like the biggest things that you can't get are, yeah, just the intensity of like the environment and the camaraderie of the experience. Because like, yeah, dude, when you're going through the ringer with like a bunch of these initially they're like strangers, and then by the end of it you're like, you've been through this gauntlet. Alan's nodding his head. Megan's nodding his head. They were both there last year. But yeah, so yeah, just, you know, you shouldn't feel pressured that you need to do this, but you know, I think, yeah, it just depends on what your goals are, what your, you know, sort of what the next month is looking like for you, you know, December 20th through mid-January. It's like, yeah, if it's a good time to grind and fucking get intense, like the results that I've seen from the people who did this are pretty insane. Like, yeah, people who, yeah, like Aaron, the dude who got on the mic and was super emphatic and awesome. I think he mentioned he'd spent like 3 months on one song in the past, and then like made like 50 songs in 5 weeks or some crazy shit like that.
That's like
Maybe
me
more.
right now. I'd take 2 months to do one like
Yeah.
final. But thank you. I appreciate that. This was very helpful. And yeah, I'll schedule a one-on-one with you, because
Yeah, dude, roll through. Awesome.
Thank
Well,
you.
great to meet you, dude. And
Nice to meet you.
fuck yeah, thank you for giving the weekend a chance, dude. Awesome
Yeah,
to
it
have you
was
in the
lit.
mix.
I had a great time. Thank
Fuck
you.
yeah. Luis, my dude, what's up?
Actually, Garrett can go first. Yeah, because he had his hand.
Dude, you're a gentleman. Garrett, what's up, man?
Appreciate that, man. Can you hear me?
Yes, what's good?
Yeah, right on. Thank you for this, Justin, by the way. I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about more of like your fantastic voyage like side of productions, and like it's a little bit more songwriter-esque, if you will. I'm a drummer, so this whole challenge like appealed to me 100%. I just wanted to see like if you have the same approach to like those style of songs, as far as like, here's my 909 and let's see what lyrics and stuff comes out of it, or just like a little bit more insight into how you kind of arrive at those productions.
Totally. Well, dude, super cool that you're interested in that stuff too. And yet you gave the 909 challenge a chance. Here's my take. It's like all of this music that might seem quite different from each other, it all helps. Like, it's so weird, but I feel like learning about singing and songwriting in weird ways has helped me make techno. Like, articulating that, not always easy, but I do feel like it's all about just improving your ears and your, production abilities. And yeah, I mean, that can manifest in such interesting ways, like, so I feel like, yeah, I just love exploring it all, and I love talking about it all. Like, it's so much fun to dig in on singing and songwriting, and that's something that I love to push people to do. Like, it's funny because both the song that I showed of like Nastia playing a track off the compilation, like, I'm gonna shake my little dick. That was our homie Alex on the mic, flexing his songwriting and vocal capabilities. And Aaron talked about a song where he was singing about drug boogers. The dude who wrote Tiny Dick, he also sang on a song during the 5-week boot camp that was like super emotional and like a gorgeous song that was like really, yeah, just like it was beautiful. And he was singing, and it's not all just about like, it's like whatever you want it to be. If you're in the mood to be silly and, pitch down your vocals, or if you want to express yourself through singing and do something that's more emotionally vulnerable, to me, it's all just about being authentic to yourself in that moment in the studio. And yeah, I feel like, yeah, it's about really giving yourself the chance to explore whatever you want. And I think there's things to learn in every style, and it can all help each other. Did I answer your question correctly?
A little bit. I mean, it's just funny because as a listener, I tend to appreciate that singer-songwriter style of house music, and then I just end up making more like 909 kits, like stuff all day long. And I just have, especially as a drummer, like a little bit more problems with the melody and kind of collecting sounds and bringing everything together, as opposed to like, I can write an 8-minute groove all day long, but when I try and put some meaning and lyrics and feels behind it, that's kind of where I hit a little bit of a struggle and just end up scrolling through like thousands of sounds to just see what sticks, So I didn't know if you were like in a similar boat when you're trying to write those songs, or if you come into them with like Let Go, for instance, is one of my favorite songs ever, right? So like, did you write that and then put a beat to it, or the other way around? Like, just kind of that process, and you don't have to go super deep into it.
Yeah, well, that song was also a collaboration with my friend Josh.
Right.
There's times where I feel like that's one of the biggest things is like, my friend Josh, he never produced a beat in his life. He was the guy who could make a whole song just on his ukulele and singing. And I'd never even thought about lyrics, and working with him, I learned so much about singing and writing songs. And the way that beat came together, I think I had like a little scratch beat that he wrote to, and then I ended up changing the production based on what he wrote and tried to have the production and the songwriting all become one and capture like the emotions of the song in the production as best I could. Which I feel like, it's kind of interesting because, yeah, you can do such fun stuff with singing and writing songs, because that song, first of all, the lyrics, let go or be dragged, that's a Chinese proverb that Josh came across on like Tumblr or like something,
nice.
like something random. And he was like, oh, it might have been phrased a little bit differently. But yeah, he was like, oh, that's a cool idea for a song. And, it's just the way that inspiration can strike is not always obvious. I feel like probably the biggest piece of advice that I have for you, I feel like both in terms of drums and songwriting, I feel like simplicity is always a great thing to lean into. Like, super random example, but this just comes to my mind. Like here, I'm thinking about like singer-songwriter shit. Like just this whole song is like 3 notes. Yeah, so it's like, let's need to pause it. Yeah, just a good example of like the simplicity. Jack White, he was like, do do do. Yo, loop that. Do do do, do do do, do do do. And like just, you know, so funny, right? Very techno. So,
much.
you know, I
Thanks,
feel like,
Justin.
yeah, if you're trying to get better at melodies, simplicity is a great place to start. Awesome, dude. That help? Okay, sweet. Luis, what's up, man?
Well, yeah. So, wow, thank you for this workshop. It was really, really cool. I really enjoyed the 909 exercise. And my question is just for fun. What are you listening to these days, this month of November? What is inspiring you?
Dude, I've been on such a weird kick lately. I feel like a big thing that has always fascinated me about dance music is something will be really, really lame and everyone shits on this thing. And then like 5 years later, it's the coolest thing. It's so funny. I've been putting out music for like 10 years and I've just seen this happen. And yeah, so like right now I've been very interested in like EDM and like commercial, cheesy, horrible dance music from like 10 years ago that everyone thought was like the lamest stuff. I was very inspired by that. I feel like another thing that I'm really inspired by is a style of music that people call hyper pop, which I feel like, oh nice, Alan's a fan. Yeah, it's interesting because it's like this mix mash between all these different styles that people regarded as cheesy, including EDM. But it's like, yeah, it's just really crazy music that can incorporate all of these different styles. And yeah, it's been really fun to explore that because yeah, I like a lot of different types of music, and this hyperpop stuff is interesting inspiration for ways you can combine all sorts of different things, whether it's trap, pop, EDM, dubstep, house music, techno. It's like drum and bass, happy hardcore. It's just chaos, and it's been really fun and inspiring. So yeah.
Nice. Okay, that's
Yeah.
very cool. Like
Yeah.
Sophie, Camden?
Sophie was definitely like a defining hyperpop artist. I'm a big fan of 100 Gex. I just saw them live in LA. It was awesome. It's fucking crazy. Most people will like turn that music on and be like, this is awful. But I love it. It's really fun. It's really fun and silly. So yeah, man.
Nice.
Fuck
Good.
yeah. All right, dude. 2 p.m. All right. If you have any other questions, feel free to message me. I'm going to still try and go through more people's 909 challenges, but yeah, I'll hit you guys with email stuff if you're curious about that boot camp thing. Yeah, feel free to sign up for an interview if you're, if you're like, oh, I want to do this, but I'm just a little unsure. We can talk about it, see if it makes sense. It might not make sense. Maybe it makes sense. There's not a lot of pressure either way. But yeah, we'll send out the links with all the info and stuff. Diego, your hand just shot up. What's up, dude? You're muted. Can't hear you. Up, he's connecting. Diego, I see the dots. Yo, can you hear me? If you can't get your mic working, feel free to type in your question. Let's give that a shot. Diego, my man. Up, we got a black square. Up. Dude, if this doesn't work, man, you can message me on Instagram and I'm sure I'll find your question. But yeah, guys, I think on that note, also this will all be recorded so you can like rewatch this shit and yeah, check it out later. But okay, Nick. What's up?
Sorry. No, so you were talking about signing up for an interview and stuff. I actually just signed up. There were just so many different options. There was call, there was interview, there's all this stuff.
Oh fuck, I dropped the wrong link. Damn it. Hold on one sec.
Okay. Well, I signed up for a phone call, but like I was like, what's the difference? Like what
Dude,
like
thank you for pointing this out.
Yeah.
Wow. Here, hold on. Let me
so that was wrong. Yeah, there were a lot of
phone call works. Can you darn it. Hold on. Because the correct one, it's called Discovery Call. And that one has like a bunch of questions to fill out. So
oh yeah, there were no, you didn't,
yeah,
wasn't jack
totally
shit. I was like, I just got in there.
Yeah, dude.
I booked one for 2:30. I don't know.
Dude,
if
I'm
that's
hyped. I'm hyped to kick it. Let's see. Let me just double check. Okay, a bunch of people have already signed up for calls. Hopefully, I'm such a dingus. Yeah, okay, cool. I'll just email everyone and we'll get that all sorted. But yeah, if you could cancel your appointment,
Okay.
you could figure out how to do that and then redo it with the correct link that I just sent. I'm
Okay.
so hyped. I've waited for your question. Let's go. That's great. Because yeah, the discovery call is the one. Let me just click that link. Discovery call. Perfect. That's the one we want to do. And yeah, okay, cool. Great note to end on. Sweet dude, looking forward to kicking it. It's nice to meet you, man.
All right, sounds good.
Alrighty, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend. Keep on making music, having fun with it, and I'm sure I'll talk to y'all soon. Take it easy.
And
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye,
Justin.
Angelo. Take it easy. Peace. Later, dude.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alrighty, guys. Bye, Megan. Thank you for all the help, Megan. You're a legend. Yo. Alrighty. Bye, guys.